Tennis had always been thought to be a sport played by gentlemen, until it wasn't. There may have been many bad boys in the sport, but Nick Kyrgios has truly made the tag his own. He does things differently, and that doesn't sit right with the purists in tennis. Let's take a closer look at why he's considered the bad boy of tennis, starting with Kyrgios being the most fined player in history. This one shouldn't be surprising at all. Nick's temperament has racked up around $800,000 in fines, and we're willing to bet that figure will cross the $1 million mark by the time Kyrgios decides to retire. He's a brilliant tennis player, but his terrible on-court behavior is something that stands between him and potential greatness. He's yelled at umpires hundreds of times and bad-mouthed opponents openly. The Australian Wild Thing struggles to control his temper on court, and that has often led to several negative interactions with the crowd. He's even demanded beer on court. Kyrgios lost the Wimbledon final, but during his fantastic run to the final, he faced Stefanos Tsitsipas, someone who isn't exactly on great terms with him. And while the match was epic, the drama wasn't bad either. In fact, he got under Steph's skin so much that he lost the match from a winning position and ended up calling Kyrgios a bully and evil. During just this year's Wimbledon run, the Aussie racked up an insane $14,000 in fines for audible obscenities and even for spitting in the direction of a spectator who was disrespecting him. Remember how we said he likes to do things differently? Well, he broke the all-white dress code of Wimbledon as he turned up in bright red shoes and a red cap. But Kyrgios has also earned a lot. He may be the most fined player in tennis history, but that's only been possible because he's earned quite a lot during his 9-year pro run in tennis. In fact, his bad boy persona gets so much attention because he's actually good and has managed to rack up over $10 million in prize money alone. We've had other bad boys like Bernard Tomic, another Australian Fabio Fognini, and Ernest Schoolbiss, among many others, but they don't get the same attention because they haven't been as good as Kyrgios. Nick got a total of 7 career titles in men's singles and a further 4 in doubles, including the Australian Open 2022 with fellow Australian Thanasi Kokkinakis. And he's earned a lot of praise from the OG bad boy of tennis John McEnroe, who believes that the 27-year-old is the most talented player he's seen in the last 10 years. That is basically why Nick makes the headlines so often. He's defeated the Big Three at least once and has a winning record against Novak Djokovic, although he lost when it mattered most. This might be the biggest reason why analysts and fans lose their patience with Kyrgios, because he's got the talent to win a Grand Slam, but these terrible on-court habits remain a major obstacle, and Nick's epic record of penalties, fines, and blowing off steam in his own way. As you must have learned by now, Kyrgios struggles a lot with control. He's got his own way of dealing with tough moments on court, and while they might not be decent, Kyrgios doesn't mind doing them. From abusing the officials, umpires to line judges, and even ball kids, there's nothing Nick hasn't done on a tennis court. Well, apart from winning a Grand Slam, but that doesn't count. On more than one occasion, Kyrgios has called the ball kids various names and even hurled objects at them. He may claim that it wasn't intentional, but we have a hard time believing that. Tennis balls, rackets, and folding chairs too. Nick would walk off the court whenever he felt like it and would smash rackets and annoy the opponent when things weren't going his way. Talking back to hecklers is a trademark Kyrgios move, and he loves getting in arguments with spectators that are trying to unsettle the mercurial superstar. The Australian also gets a lot of hate because he doesn't respect his peers. He may have some fantastic things to say about Andy Murray and at times about Roger Federer, but until his Wimbledon final, Kyrgios had a long-standing beef with Novak Djokovic. He's also got a fiery history with Tsitsipas, and he almost always gets the better of it too. But the Nadal fans hate him for his attitude towards the Spanish superstar. He aimed a smash directly at Nadal, engaged in verbal spats, and insulted many opponents in interviews. Also, some bizarre Kyrgios moments. Given just how unpredictable Kyrgios can be as a player and as a person, we've experienced some truly bizarre moments with the bad boy of tennis. Once, during the Australian Open of 2016, Kyrgios complained about the music he could hear from the crowd, and then, a year later at the French, Nick was having a tough time and smashed 2 rackets, and then asked for a beer. He's not afraid to have a drink or two. Nick was pictured enjoying a drink at a London pub a few hours before an important match against Rafael Nadal at Wimbledon 2019. Not to mention the time when he hated his tournament-branded towel and asked for a white one, and even refused to play for another 20 until the officials fetched him one. Truly bizarre. While the Laver Cup might not come under the umbrella of the ATP, Kyrgios was famously quoted for losing concentration because of a hot chick in the crowd after Federer beat him in 2019 in a thriller. But one of his lowest moments came in Montreal in 2015 when he made a lewd sexual comment about his opponent Stanislas Wawrinka's then-girlfriend. But the most bizarre entry here? It's the fact that tennis isn't even Kyrgios' favorite sport. On more than one occasion, he's revealed that he doesn't really like the sport of tennis much and plays only to put on a bit of a show. He prefers playing basketball and says that's the sport he loves the most. Not to mention Nick's controversial comments. Perhaps the most controversial feature of Kyrgios is his ability to make some majorly vexing and problematic statements in interviews. He openly stated that the ATP is pretty corrupt anyway, and that he wasn't frustrated with the fine that he received. Eventually, he did backtrack on his words, but we're sure the ATP officials wouldn't have bought into the clarification from the Australian. But even during the clarification, Kyrgios pointed out that he didn't mean to say corruption, rather meant double standards. Then one time, speaking on a podcast, Kyrgios went off about his fellow tennis players. He called Nadal salty, Fernando Verdasco the most arrogant person ever, and Djokovic has a sick obsession with wanting to be liked, not to mention his beef with Wawrinka and Tsitsipas. And the one time at the Cincinnati Masters when Kyrgios went on a super attack against umpire Fergus Murphy after he judged him for taking too much time between serves. Kyrgios' response was that, if Rafa plays that quick, I'm retiring from tennis, and went on to call Murphy the worst referee and a fucking tool. But this was quite costly, and he was fined $113,000 along with a 16-week suspension, although we'd argue it wasn't exactly effective. Lastly, Kyrgios' serious off-court controversies. He can get away with most things he's done on court, but the biggest controversy surrounding Kyrgios is the current ones. A year ago, the Australian star was dating model Chiara Passari, but their breakup was a pretty bad one. In October of 2021, police were called to break up a fierce row between the couple, and they were placed in separate quarantine hotels. This year, during Wimbledon, Passari accused Kyrgios of assault, and the star was summoned to an Australian courtroom later this year. If found guilty, it's so important for the ATP to take action against Kyrgios. They failed to do so on many occasions with their continued silence over Alex Zverev and Nicolas Basilashvili. We hope that changes with Kyrgios if he's found guilty of this obscene act. But that's not the only major controversy he's been involved in either. Back in 2015, Kyrgios encouraged his fans to smear their faces with Nutella and Vegemite to show support. While it was started by an online fan during Wimbledon 2015, Kyrgios got wind of it and was reportedly saying to a fan that it doesn't get more Australian than support from your locals and a face full of Vegemite. This led to many fans posting pictures of smearing their faces in Nutella and Vegemite and sparked a massive racism debate, with even Serena Williams joining in to say that she'd be interested to know why fans did it. Phew, at least now you know why Kyrgios is such a controversial player on tour and considered the bad boy of tennis. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Kyrgios' antics are acceptable in tennis? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.